get this opportunity. Thank you, Jenny, Sherman, for giving us the opportunity. As Sherman mentioned, Surveil is designed to really help Jenny and team to really properly understand your environment, get deep insights into it, but actually make your job really easy in terms of onboarding and how that information gets available and the richness of that information. So for a start, as Sherman said, we do read-only access to your entire environment. So when you see what I'm going to show you, everything you see in that environment is read-only. And also to mention onboarding. Sherman mentioned there's no agents involved and things like that. We literally just need one of your admins to log in the first time, both on the Azure side and on the 365 side. 5 to 15 minutes, just depends on if we want to have a chat first or not. And then you're onboarded into the platform. And then we're click straight into the platform. So we've onboarded you, it's taken 5 to 15 minutes. And generally we'll leave the platform running in the background for maybe a few days because the engine at the back end, it's all AI, machine learning type based engine. We'll go and get huge amounts of data from Microsoft, both on the Azure and 365 side, and then we'll go and learn a lot of things, and especially around how to optimize your environments, right? And some relevant areas as well. Security and governance is really relevant to both Azure and 365. And also very relevant could be adoption. How you've paid for these expensive licenses in 365, how are you adopting them? And then, other areas like identity management in 365 or policy management in Azure, all very important areas. It is your single pane of glass that you can go into, get a quick view in these different areas, make sure the governance is in place, make sure the costs are being managed optimally. There's new licensing models coming out from Microsoft next year. It's going to be a nightmare to manage those. Sherman mentioned in the beginning, this Microsoft beast. It is a beast. It's a wonderful beast, but it's a beast. And managing those EA contracts for us, it doesn't matter. So we have in the portal, we'll bring in your EA contracts, we'll bring in your pay-as-you-go, we'll bring in your CSP. And as Sherman said, most fundamentally, CSP, you just know you've got a lot more comfort around how it's being managed through the platform. So I'm going to log in. I'm going to go straight in. And as a start, you'll see I'm looking at Azure and Office 365. It is that simple. Those of you who are experienced in either of those environments, you'll know going in there just takes a little bit longer. So just generally from an experience point of view, you'll find this fundamentally is a lot quicker to get into information that you need. I've got a lot of menus down the side here. I'm an administrator. Not everybody's going to have all those menus. It depends on who you're showing. The CIO could be there, and maybe you want to give the CIO access just to the C-level dashboard. Or maybe you want to have somebody look at subscriptions and see what subscriptions you've got in place. And if I go into analytics on the subscription side, you'll start seeing the richness that the product brings. So we use Power BI embedded analytics in the back end. It just gives another flavor, another level of those graphics. And one other thing to mention from the back end, we know that the data source in your company quite often is messy or not ideally suited for different businesses. And if you look at Azure AD as one of those primary data sources, and you look at Azure tagging as a primary data source, there are other data sources as well, group information and that type of thing. But if you take those two primary information sources, they're very much geared and designed around keeping IT happy. So when a CFO wants to see financial information or procurement person, or when the head of IT wants to look at more of the other kinds of information, that data really isn't ideally suited. So we have our own AI tagging engine. We will read some of that information and we'll bring that in, and then we can create tags. We have some default ones we create, but there's a lot there that are in there by you choose. You could have, tell me, you could have a category around who supports these machines, right? It's the DB team, it's this team, it's that team. You create whatever tag you want, but we have a bunch of default ones as well. So I'm just going to show you what we mean. You've got from the EO down. We want to clean that nicely up so you can see the different divisions, different departments. And I can go into, let's say over here by lines of business. And what it's showing me here is there's the lines of business in the tag value. And I can straight away click on HQ and finance. And if you look top right, you can see what costs they have associated, or design and QA. And I can see design and QA. There is your app service has gone up by 3% in the last month, right? Or customer services. Or maybe I want to see this by risk level because I'm more interested in my high risk platforms or risk impact. So you've got a number of areas you can go into. You can change the time frames. You might want to go by system name. So there's my bot service, or there's my compliance platform, or my group systems. You're not going to be able to do this in Azure, and it's really critical to understand and get on top of your expenses as well. So expense management, you'll see we have a lot of optimization help. That AI engine is going to really help you in the Azure space and in the Office 365 space. But at the same time, there's also procedural help. So let's make sure we understand what your QA environments are, your dev environments, your non-critical environments, because they will definitely need to be treated differently to those critical environments, the high performance environments. If you're running a small test environment, why run SSD disk on those environments when probably you can get away with a cheaper disk, right? But when you're production out on the internet, you want the fastest performing disk. So you want to use this business categorization. So I'm going to go into the overview, and you're going to see that business categorization coming to life. What you've got here is exactly that. It is the overview. And you're going to see, for a start, that's your overview. And you can see here, there's all of my different subscriptions. Down the side again, I just know for a fact this Microsoft Azure one is a CSP subscription. This is a pay-as-you-go subscription. In this test environment, we don't have an EA, but the EA subscriptions, all of them would be listed there. And now we can start really straight from here already. There's my virtual machines. Oh, I'm spending a lot of money on virtual machines. And I can see which subscriptions are spending it on, what the cost change has been in the last few months. Or maybe, so within any of these kind of areas, you'll find that across the platform, you've got these in-context pop-ups. And you can see in here, the top area there is a technical categorization. So I can see how much I'm spending on premium disk and things like that, or I can see I'm spending quite a lot of money on WAFs or on app services. And down the bottom, I can see my most expensive system is my FinTech test system, leveraging that AI tagging platform again, or it's in manufacturing in the division. So very quick and easy to get into the different areas. And you can even, for example, I showed you up top there. There's again, you've got those things, and I might say, show me this for contact center services, and immediately I can have a view of where contact center services are spending their money, right? Maybe one or two other things you'll hear Sherman talk a little bit about, not a little bit, it's a very important area, but talk about resource groups. You've got all your resource groups here, and actually you can see costs by resource groups, right? It's not always about technical. Of course, you can drill into any one of them and you can go and see what resources are inside those resource groups. But yeah, you've got a view on resource groups. So again, not the only area that you want is just the sort of traditional VMs that you want to take to advantage and report on the categorization that Microsoft allows you to do, be it blueprinting, be it resource groups, et cetera, et cetera. So I've gone through just some examples there. Maybe very simply, you want to show somebody a simple dashboard. You can see this month you've gone up by 15.47%. So some dashboards will be more complex. In many cases, I don't know if it's in this one, but you can right click, you can drill through and get into higher levels. So this is overview typically. I can also just show you on the tagging side. Very quickly, those lines of business. This is the UI side of the platform. So a lot of IT people might work, administrators, that kind of thing. I can see here in the last 30 days, that's been my cost changes, the new subscription that's come in there. So it does show that. But in the last, say, 7 days, I've had a 1% increase in this one. I can click in manufacturing, right? In the division manufacturing, I can see now straight away, this is the resources in my manufacturing. I can see this one over here. I can click on it. And I can, number one, I can add some manual tags if I want, needs a review, needs repair, whatever it is for somebody else to go and review. But I've got all the technical information about this as well, right down to CPU. I might want to change that to disk read writes, and I can go and make decisions about it. Read only. I can give this to an analyst. I can give this to anybody to go and do some assessments on and not worry about them breaking something in my Azure environment. So very quick and easy to get into that. But let me get now into the sort of more deeper procurement side. I'm not going to go through everything just for the sake of time. But this, you can really start looking at this financially. So if I make this, I maybe want to change the time frame here to a year. And then I'll straight away get a year's view. By lines of business, and I can see, well, some business, maybe financial transparency. People want to know what they're spending their money on. What was this bill you gave me in July for 1.2K in customer services? Well, just click on it. Let's go and have a look, Mr. Customer. And you can go in there. You can look at you can see it's Power BI embedded. That's been your primary cost and virtual machines. So financially, very quick and easy. Again, you can get rolling forecasts. You can do it by month. You can forecast into the future. You can use seasonal forecasting. We use some cognitive services and AI there as well. 75% confidence type forecasting here. You can do it by 3 months, etc. Sherman mentioned one of the most important cost-saving areas is reservations. It really is. It's one that you've got to get on top of if you want to save true money at no real detriment. There's no downside if you plan this properly. If you have the right tooling to understand what you can put into reserved instances and that. It should give you confidence to go and do it. So this is the procurement side. This will show you what you've got in your reserved instances. And you can see up here, there's some expiring, when they expire, so you can stay on top of that. You can see the monthly costs, you can see the trending of it. And even you can go down and say, right, as a target, how much of my environment is now on reserved instances? Well, I'm sitting at 5. I've gone from 6.2%, 8.9, 6.2, 5.5. That's not really good. You know, I should be improving and leveraging RIs more. And, you know, Sherman gave the point, you know, a lot of this test environment is sitting in pay as you go. And I 100% agree with Sherman. You know, we've gone through hundreds of customers. And if you look at the pay as go instances, there's no doubt they are in more of a state, including our own, right? They're not as carefully controlled. So you then get into other areas, cost change. You can drill into a lot of really detailed information. I'll just click on a screen, but it'll go down, it'll go down. You can even see, you know, how does Logic Apps or Log Analytics ingest things on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. You can look at marketplace costs if you have them. You can see your activity logs and go in there. So that, of course, is all around procurement. There's a lot in there. As I said, you can right click, you can drill down. Let me show you a little bit about a very important piece is what help we give you to optimize your costs, right? So down the side here, Microsoft have something called their advisor. They will give you some advice. If I look at the same test environment, they only tell me about reserved instances that are expiring and maybe 1 or 2 other reserved instances I could apply. That's great news. But they don't tell me to downsize anything because they take a very cautious approach, right? They don't tell me that I've got zombie resources. They don't tell me I've got too much premium SSD disk, or they don't give me options around what I want to downsize. Not just on VMs, on SQL, around a number of areas, idle databases, oversized services. So all of that's captured in this environment. And you could be going into hybrid benefit. You can see here exactly what CPU you've got. It's not an EA environment, so you need software assurance. But if you had it in there, you can say, you know, we've purchased 35, we've got 35 cores that are eligible. I need 32, so therefore I can apply it on all of these workloads, those ones listed in there. In the same way with idle oversized services, I can see on the right-hand side here which ones they are. I can investigate them, get people to action them, right? On the reserved instance side now, I've got planning features. So if you're an EA, there's actually about 4 or 5 screens you can go through here because you might buy reserved instances as one-offs. So what is the best way to procure those? Is it 1 year? Is it 3 years? On CSP, same thing. Is it 1 year? Is it 3 year? What's the best methodology to procure it? And when you procure it, if you buy it, pay it as a one-off, you don't want to make sure you don't lose sight of that. So there are areas that will show that mapped out over the year, so you don't lose sight of the cost you can need to incur again in a year's time. Oh, I haven't budgeted for it. And then there's ones like zombie resources. I think UAT dev workloads is always great to show because this is really an area that is completely under managed, if I want to call it that. People put in areas into QA. So now we've got our tagging engine, doesn't matter CSP, EA subscriptions. It doesn't matter which environments, right? Within one subscription, you could have QA and UAT environments, depending on how your architecture works. But I can say for the QA and UAT environments, I could go and save £88 a month here on these ones like storage, because in storage, I'm using premium SSD disk there, P10 disk. Why am I using P10 disk for a QA environment? Now, you may have a reason, but this will prompt you to go and investigate that, right? And really understand. And you can also move to other subscriptions from Microsoft where you can get benefits around moving to a dev test subscription, right? So you'll get discount from Microsoft. Basically, they discount the software piece of the hardware. So you're provisioning a Microsoft server, they'll give you some discount on the server side. And again, same thing for premium disk. You can plan around it. You can not just, we'll give you recommendations around utilization below 10%, but maybe you as a company, you want to be more aggressive. You want to look at things below 20%. You can do that. You can straight away see immediately, you know, it doesn't matter if you've got 10,000 servers out there, where you could save money, and let's go and drill into those. Let's investigate each of them. Same thing for SQL resizing, disk resizing. And then we've got some funky deployments coming in. We have some on the Databricks and Kubernetes. You'll see here, there's Kubernetes, but the Databricks we don't have in the background here. But Databricks, it'll consolidate things in that for you. So I think that sort of covers high level just from a procurement, optimization. Again, lots of other features in there, C-level dashboards, etc. I'm not going to go into all of them. I think it's really key to show you what we do on Azure governance as well. So in this area here, you'll start off with the governance side. And I'll show you 2 or 3 very key areas there. But fundamentally, you want to be looking at your governance overview. And so this starts giving you your regulatory compliance, your secure scores, where you've got some compliance and non-compliance. You can click on them. You can right-click in certain areas and drill through and find out exactly what those resources are. You can see if you've got blueprints or not, how many definitions you've got, and what your compliance is by different subscriptions, right? So you've got a good way to go in there and investigate those different ones. You might want to look at security and compliance, for example, and say on security and compliance, there's a couple of areas I want to look at, but I want to look at maybe high risk severity areas, and I want to look at, let's say, monitoring. And it's telling me there log analytics should be installed in your Linux-based machines and on Windows-based machines. So you straight away can see what recommendations there are from that perspective. And you could also go and look at your policies and see what policies you've actually implemented. So this particular machine here, it's got one policy assignment with 27 different definitions. They are below there. It shows you your compliance. Focus on the high risk areas first, then we're going to tackle the medium risk areas, then we're going to tackle the low risk areas, right? Using that tagging engine, making this actionable. And certainly things like secure score and that, see how your progress is going. Look at what's healthy, look at what's not what's unhealthy. You know, in different areas you can look at enable MFA. Have I got MFA enabled? Am I doing auditing and logging? And you can see there's three services in that one that haven't got it enabled. In the same way, on the infrastructure and security side, a number of areas to look at. That's the overview of your infrastructure. Maybe you want to go and look, for example, at your security alerts coming through, different kinds of areas. So there's some unusual locations that's been accessed from. You can drill down, find out the machines that are there. Network service groups, right? So I think Sherman's going to show a bit more around this, but here across your entire estate, by clicking on 3 dots, you can export how your security has been set up through those different network security groups and immediately identify where you've got gaps. I'm exposing this IP address to the public internet instead of locking it down to an IP address, or I'm exposing this port. Why am I exposing it, right? Straight, depending on the ports, etc. Your security guys will be able to straight away get on top of it, make sure it's not happening. And as a service, your partners can help you manage and monitor this ongoing, right? So I2 can get on top of this, help you manage this as a service if that's something you prefer to have. So you've got your RBAC roles. You can see exactly who's got access to what. And if you've got our 365 module, we can go right down to deep levels of detail there and actually look at what kinds of authentication they're doing, what are they accessing, when are they accessing it, have they got the right levels of audit and control, have they got the right different areas of things they can look at there. I quite like this view here. You can, for example, click on a subnet, and you'll learn a little bit about subnet shortly. And I can see that subnet is connected to 2 different VNets. There's the virtual machines in there, their names, that's the NICs that they have. So it's very quick and easy to understand what resources are associated with what areas. You know, this WAF product has got those NICs, those NSG groups, that public IP name, etc. So that's on the Azure side. Almost done. I'll just flick into the 365. It's as simple to get into the 365. You know, today is not about 365, but this platform allows, in a very similar way, you've got your overview of your Microsoft world. You can go and get an overview of your Teams world, how it's connected, the Teams callings you're doing. The same way, we've got all of the financial recommendations. Are you optimizing your licenses? Could you go down from an E5 to an E3? Who's using all of the components of an E5? What are the components of an E5? How many cloud apps are you using? We'll even go right down and tell you who your home workers are, how many offices you got, who your telcos are, how many people work from home yesterday, today, tomorrow, what are they using when they work from home? You know, home working is a big area for us. And of course, there's a whole bunch of risk and governance around 365 as well, whether it's secure score related. We look at all a single pane of glass for sort of like a basic SOC service, where we bring in 4 or 5 different Microsoft security dashboards into one area, really easy to manage. And there's an alerting engine, just to mention, that's a common alerting engine across environments. We can set up definitions for alerts, we can create the alerts, and we can say, tell me when the marketing division's Azure cost goes above $500 a month. Tell me when a mailbox goes over 300 gigs a month, 300 megs a month, or whatever it might be, 1 gig. Tell me when there's a new joiner in the company. Tell me when there's a leaver, etc. So hopefully that's given you a great overview. Again, thank you for the opportunity. And I'll hand back to you, Sherman.